So, yeah, remember that joke I made a few issues back about never touching this atrocity? Yeah, after some further research, it apparently is in continuity, meaning that I kind of have to cover it. Kind of. You know what, I'm not touching on the main story at all. Nope, you can't make me. I've invoked my powers as scriptwriter to spare myself from this. If you are honestly curious about the horrors of this Pender's written nightmare, you can read the issue for yourself, or if you're just slightly less of a masochist, you can check out Linkara's review on the subject. Incidentally, the first time he took a look at a Sonic comic. I will at least give my reasonings as to why I won't cover it. While this issue does contain one story that is in continuity, the main story and the first backup story are pretty much completely standalone and have nothing to do with the ongoing plot. Even for a Pender's written story, it's pretty subpar, its most infamous quality being that it features photo panels of real-life relatives of Ken, his son and niece, and man did these panels stand out. Even ignoring that, and let's be honest, it's not their fault they were featured in a horrible comic, the writing is absolutely abysmal, not even really trying to make sense, and featuring some of the most annoying plot contrivances I think I've seen out of the series at this point. The artwork from the actual story is pretty bad too, and wouldn't you know, that's because it's Ken who's handling it. He's not actually credited as the artist for the story, but research into the topic reveals that yes, he wrote and drew the story, and it's full of plenty of good examples of just why he shouldn't be drawing a professional comic book to begin with. The first backup story is directly related to the main story of this issue, and shows Larry Lynx the Super Jinx, man that's a name we haven't heard in a while, and Cyril the Eagle, also another name we haven't seen for a while, banding together with the pre-existing substitute Freedom Fighters to save the captured main Freedom Fighters while Sonic is off on his own adventure with Ken's family. It's a lot more easy on the eyes and actually not nearly as poorly written, mostly because it's Rich Kowalski who handles writing and inking, while Art Mawhinney handled the pencils, and does actually have one detail that comes up later in the main book, with Larry joining the substitute Freedom Fighters and actually becoming their leader, something that I don't think is touched on at all for the rest of Ken's time on the book, but hey, I've been wrong before when trying to remember details like this. So with that little synopsis out of the way, let's talk about the only story that actually matters in the ongoing plot of the book. All 5 pages of it. Oh boy, the YouTube algorithm is gonna flay this one. We pick up on Knuckles' quest to try and find the Sword of Acorns, with a brief recap letting us know that the Chaotix are still guarding the floating island while he goes out on his quest. Knuckles finds a remote, untouched cottage deep in a section of the Great Forest, and is assaulted by an off-color cacodemon. Beholder Light. No, he refers to it as a fairy tale creature known as the Devil Watcher. Knuckles responds how he usually does to a threat and punches a tree into the thing's mouth, causing it to dissolve into goop. Entering the house, he's immediately set upon by a pair of blood beasts, again looking pretty damn similar to something you'd find in a D&D book. He defeats the 2 monsters, but is yet again attacked by a series of other beasts, including a super buff human with surprisingly good eyebrows, a freaking Chinese dragon, and even the Reaper himself. Illusion or not, it brings me great joy to say that Knuckles can stand next to the Belmont clan as one of the few characters who has punched death in the face and lived to tell about it. Getting tired of the illusions, Knuckles thinks back on what the ancient walkers had told him before coming to the conclusion that he's in the home of the charlatan they mentioned before. He apologizes for invading the man's home, and at once the illusions dissipate, revealing an old fox who greets him and says that he was once an illusionist in service of the king. While he can't tell Knuckles where to find the sword himself, he points him in the direction of the Land of the Dark, which, if Knuckles can find it, should hold someone who can help him. As the old man sends Knuckles on his way, he finally introduces himself as well, letting Knuckles know that if he should see the king again, he should mention that Merlin Prower wishes him well. Yes, that's the same Prower as our lovable 2-tailed mutant, and this is actually Tails' uncle. And that's where the story ends. Apologies for the short review, but to be fair, you aren't missing out on much by just skipping to the next chapter in Knuckles' quest. Which is a good story for as short as it was. It introduces a new character related to one of the main ones in a way that really builds up the mystery around them. Unfortunately, we don't get a chance to really hear much from him. The monster designs and the illusions are also pretty fun too. It's also nice to see Knuckles utilizing his brain rather than his fists for a change. In terms of art, it's easily the best of the 3 stories in this not-so-special special. It's tough to discern just who was responsible for the interiors because of how poorly written the credits are on this issue, but I believe Pat Spaziante was responsible for pencils, while Andrew Pepoy was the inker. But the way it's worded seems to suggest that Pat also helped with writing the story with Kent Taylor. If that's the case, good for him, it's a pretty well-written story, but I think it's just the credits not making it clear who had what role in the story. The lighting and shadows are very well done, the character expressions are great, and the backgrounds are fantastic. I do wish we could have seen more of what Merlin could create with his magic, just to see what else he could have ended up fighting. Next time, thank God, we won't have to deal with anything like this again. Instead, we're moving right back to the main book with issue 43. I'll see you all next time, everyone.